Welcome back to Creative Pursuits. I'm Casey Parlette. I'm a professional sculptor in wood, metal, and stone, doing wildlife art, and I'm really excited to be joined today by my friend Tom Lamb, who does beautiful artwork in a number of different mediums, but primarily photography work.
Right.
I've seen some other directions you've kind of gone with it, but your photography work is what you're probably best known for. And Tom has been one of those guys that's been a real mentor and really a done a lot for the arts over the years. And I want to kind of dive in a little bit into your story and kind of how you got into art and kind of your journey on that stuff. But also, at some point in this conversation, I want to talk about, your vision for how you see arts, especially in Laguna Beach, kind of down the line, and what it's sort of evolving into, and how things have changed, and where it's kind of where you think it's going, and where we want to maybe try and steer it.
Boy, do we have a couple weeks of
Yeah,
conversation?
So we'll just keep rolling for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Well, good morning, Casey. I'm proud and honored to be part of this this dialogue and this journey that we're taking together.
All right. So when you got started, I mean, you didn't grow up in Laguna Beach.
No, I was actually born on the East Coast, born in Manhattan, New York City.
Wow.
And then went to schools in New England. And I've always been a photographer. The short story is that I have 3 brothers. So there are 4 of us. No girls, just 4 boys. And my father was a doctor, and he didn't really encourage us to go into medicine or anything like that. My mother was a hardcore conservationist and artist in her own right. And they sort of encouraged us in the arts.
That's unusual.
Yeah, that's pretty
Most
cool.
parents kind of try and do whatever they can to keep their kids from getting into art.
Well, they whatever they did. But
Yeah.
and so each of us kind of drew a different straw, and I ended up with photography.
That's the
Yeah, I mean,
straw you drew.
I
What
did.
about your brothers? What did they end up doing?
Well, my oldest brother is actually a landscape architect, and incredibly with his hand drawing and thinking, space making is pretty amazing. Next brother is a incredible painter. Like he's now somewhat retires, paints every day, plein air painter, lives in Colorado. So my oldest brother lives on the Cape, in Cape Cod in Massachusetts, and in Boston. And next brother George lives in Vail, Colorado. Not too bad.
No, that's
And then my youngest brother is a hand worker, everything by hand tools, and he lives in Kittery Point, Maine.
interesting. Well, Maine's a good spot for all those traditional skills. I mean, a
Oh.
lot of those guys, I see a lot. I got to kind of fired up on like wooden boat building stuff, and just reading up on it and learning more about it. And a lot of that stuff, a lot of the guys that are the real masters of that stuff, there's a lot in Maine.
Oh, I mean, and he has what he call wee houses, which are these small houses. One that's a blacksmith shop, another's hand tooling shop. But he'll be making baskets. He's been studying Scandinavian basketry and other things, and then
Cool.
so picnic, these turned baskets, you wood and bend it and mold it and make it, and he's been making these sailcloth things. I mean, he just figures this stuff out. He wants to make a birch bark box.
Cool.
He'll find a birch bark tree.
And they steam it, right?
Well, they steam it, but it has no seams because he'll take the whole log and then steam the piece off, and then that's the outside container.
Oh, neat. That's
And then
cool.
you make the box, the tops and the bottoms and the
Yeah.
containers, and
So the whole family is in the arts.
in the arts.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really
And,
cool.
The next generation's getting doctors and smart people again.
It skips a generation. Yeah, it skips a generation.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you grew up out there, and then when did you? So you said you've always done photography.
Actually, yeah.
What was the path on that? Like, how did that go?
Well, I mean, even from like middle school kind of thing, I had a darkroom in my parents' basement,
Yeah.
and a guy gave me a roll of film, like 1,000-foot roll of film. I could just carve off the film I wanted for my camera, so it never had big expense for it.
That helps.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
So just
yeah.
free materials.
That helps a lot. Yeah, that's that. Well, that's kind of because I mean those dark rooms, especially. I took a photography class in high school that was like, again, with dark rooms and with developing all this stuff. It was really an interesting process. It's amazing. I mean, nowadays everything's digital, so it's a
Well,
It's
sort of.
not everything, but most of the stuff is digital. Most people aren't
Well, I
going
mean,
and doing that.
although there is a tip back into sort of what we're now calling sort of the analog world,
Oh, okay.
so it's interesting. I mean, I've now lived in Laguna for over half my life.
Okay.
So I didn't grow up here, but now it's kind of like home.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And but I went to schools on the East Coast. We migrated to Colorado for a bunch of years, and then we moved from Leadville, Colorado, at 11,000 feet to Laguna Beach in one stop.
Wow.
So you go from the top of the world to the ocean.
We probably had a lot of energy with all the red blood cells from going to elevation. I mean, you're probably running laps up and down the hills here.
Well, my daughter was conceived, born, and carried in maybe not in that order, but in Leadville, and they came out here to do swimming class, and they said, "Well, let's see how you can do underwater." And she was doing laps underwater.
Oh yeah, just because
Highest lungs that never end.
Yeah, it's like a Sherpa basically going to elevation. I mean, they're probably just
like what more do you want me to do?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
and
awesome.
So it was pretty amazing. And people said, how could you survive there? Well, they had the best skiing in the world. I mean, Outward Bound was kind of not as high as we were.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could just go out and ski.
That's worth it.
And
yeah,
we could ski, 240 days a year.
Wow.
And
that's great.
So we started out as downhill skiers, and then I did a lot of backcountry skiing, and then now trying to go back to downhill to keep up to the grandkids. But
skiing's fun. Well, skiing's kind of a fun one that you can take everybody and have the whole family go and do, and it's a pretty doable.
Yeah. Morgan just bought me an Icon pass for Big Bear.
All right, you're all set.
So we're set.
All right. So you went from there, and then you were you doing art or like doing photography for a living? Like did you go to school for photography? Did you?
Yeah,
what was kind of the path on that?
Well, I went to in high school you said you took a photography class. And I went to a boarding school for the last couple of years of my life. It was a high school kid in Connecticut, Western Connecticut.
Okay.
And they said they had these programs where you could go to the New York Opera for a couple days and study opera or do something else.
Oh, cool.
And it was different, kind of very progressive kind of thing. And they said, "Well, what do you want to do?" I said, "Well, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to photograph. But I need like a month." "A month?" They said. "What do you mean a month?" I said, "Well, maybe it's not a nice day."
That's true. Well, that's the tricky thing with
You know,
photography is you're there in that moment.
Maybe it's not right,
Yeah.
I said, "I'll still take the classes I'm not doing great in and
Yeah.
try to pass those."
Yeah.
And I was on a rowing crew team, and I said, "I'll keep doing that, but that's nothing else." And
Yeah.
they said, "I don't know, this is kind of way beyond the bounds." But they came back and said, "Okay."
That was cool.
So it was a Housatonic Valley, I mean, beautiful part of Connecticut. And so I did that. And then for the quote yearbook kind of thing, there's like a portfolio of that work in there. So it's kind of got memorialized and went on. And then I went on to college, and I went to school in Hartford, Connecticut, Hartford Art School. I started out in political science and realized that was kind of a disaster.
Not the direction you wanted to go.
Well, at the times, I mean, how do you study political science? It's like current events. I mean, how do you study current events today?
You
it's
don't
all
over the place.
I mean, because you don't know what's really happening.
Yeah. That's one of the
Where's
hardest
the
things.
hidden agenda? Where's all this stuff? There's
Yeah.
all this noise, but then, ooh, what happened over here?
Yeah.
And it was simpler then.
Yeah.
And but did that, and then we moved to I moved to Colorado, and how I got there is like a whole nother adventure. But got there and spent time, and then met my wife
in Colorado.
Yeah, I picked her up hitchhiking.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Hitchhiking was it was a pretty mainstream thing back in the day. Now it's like you hardly ever see anybody hitchhiking.
Yeah, well, she was a ski bum, kind of making her way to Aspen eventually, but in Vail, and
Yeah.
her Volkswagen Bug pedal stuck to the ground,
Oh,
froze up.
Flooring it. Yeah.
And she had a little job at a ski shop, and she had to get into town, and so she walked down the hill, and I had a little sports car and got down, and she's like stuck her thumb out tentatively, and I said, "Want to ride?" And
Yeah.
rest is history.
One thing led to another. Okay, awesome. Well, that sounds like an awesome way
Yeah,
to
so
meet.
we've been married now, 45 years,
Yeah.
46 years, something like that. So
All right.
so together half a century, right? I mean,
That's
it's
a long
pretty
time.
pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
So were you?
but then I went back east and
Yep.
went to graduate school in Rhode Island
for photography.
for photography
Wow.
and studied at a design school called the Rhode Island School of Design.
And then once you finished school, like what kind of photography jobs were you looking to
Well, I
do?
got hired out of school to be a full-time instructor in Colorado.
Oh, interesting.
Run an art department of photography for Colorado Mountain College.
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to go back for my finals and final portfolios things, but I was already teaching.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
And so and that was kind of strange too for them, because it was like I sort of left in the middle of graduate school to go teach. And I
Yeah.
said, "Well, why am I getting an MFA if isn't that why you got him?"
Yeah, to get a job. Yeah, yeah. So you already got a job.
I already have one.
Yeah. And then so you were teaching, and then were you doing your own stuff on the
Yeah.
side?
I was. And while I was in graduate school, I worked with this great photographer, Aaron Siskin, kind of a master of photography kind of old guy. And he was in his declining years, and I was in charge of all his master portfolios, putting them. And in those days, analog photography, you make these prints in the darkroom, but then you had to spot them to get the
Yeah.
imperfections out,
Oh.
like a triple aught brush, like kind of
Yeah,
crazy
yeah.
stuff.
So to
And,
kind of get it all
get them all
as
perfect,
good as it can be.
all
Yeah.
perfect, and lots of stories with that. But he photographed sort of the microcosm of the world, like think of rip signage on a wall, or just like close-ups of like this pattern right here. He photographed that.
Oh, that's kind of
And
cool. So
he had
just to
he had
to draw you
abstract
into that.
expressionist paintings on the wall, like
Yeah.
Franz Klein and others things.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing all that, but I don't quite get it. And I had my 8x10 view camera, and I had the heroic American landscape. I had to do all these things to do
Yeah.
that. And he goes, "Okay, what does that mean?" I said, "I don't know, but I'm trying to figure it out." And he said, "Well, good luck." He said, "You get using this big camera, you can't make them larger. I mean, eventually I got big enlargers and stuff, and it was pretty amazing, because with those big films, you'd go out, and if you made 3 pictures a day, you were really working. But they were all good.
Yeah.
They were all
Yeah.
interesting. And I have stacks of these images that I don't do anything with right now. But then I moved here, and the reason I moved to Laguna was I had an exhibition at BC Space, which is now Laguna Beach Cultural Arts Center,
Okay.
and I had an exhibit there and another one in Riverside
Oh.
in a thing. And while I came to Laguna Beach, I knew a good friend from Colorado, Jerry Birchfield, who had this BC Space. That's why I had the show there. And my brother worked for a landscape architecture firm in Boston.
Okay.
And he said, "We got some guys in Laguna that have a thing, and you might be interested." It was a firm called SWA.
Okay.
And so I said, "Okay." And so I went, and Susan Witten was there, Rob Elliott, all these people were there. They're really interesting people. And I had lunch with them, and they were talking about doing these different kind of really interesting projects. But then I said, "See ya. Got to go back and teach."
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said, "Well, if you're ever interested," I said, "If you're ever interested in really talking about photography, let me know." Well, they had a tradition of photographing or using photography to illustrate their work. And Peter Walker, who's a well-known landscape architect, had hired a painter to photograph his work. I mean, that's the kind of
Okay.
photography. It wasn't just
Yeah.
commercial, here it is.
They wanted someone with
They
an
wanted-
artistic eye to
They
capture
wanted
it.
someone to kind of get it.
Yeah.
And the slideshows of SWA were infamous in the sense that they, merged together, and they created long things, and they created this. You had a sense of place,
Yeah.
not just a thing.
Well, and that's something that good photography, I mean, it really tells us, it can tell a story that's just so layered. And I think that that's something that, I mean, nowadays everybody's got a camera in their phone, everybody's doing whatever, but still, like, good photography, like, tells a story that is like, it draws you in, and it kind of like, it takes you on a journey. And I think that that's something that's really a special thing when you do see it.
And like you want to know everything about your materials.
Mm-hmm.
You want to know about, I mean, you spent time on the Amazon. You wanted to know about, the depth.
Yeah.
How deep can you research things, right?
Yeah.
So to me, I don't like to photograph something I don't understand.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mystery, and it's, wow, that's kind of neat.
Yeah.
But eventually you want to know stuff about it.
Yeah.
So when I photograph, whether it's as a documentary photographer or something that has no relationship to a project, perhaps, um, I'd like to know depth. And the landscape architecture firm became my like PhD program in land planning, urban design, landscape architecture.
Wow.
I had
Cool.
the best designers in the world
That
as
you're
my,
working with on that.
and then I became a partner there for 12 years at
Wow.
SWA as a photographer.
Yeah.
And I'm a very good planner now.
Yeah.
Don't ask me to do your irrigation
Sure.
design,
Sure.
but I see things. I mean, you see the way things are put together.
Yeah.
And a lot of firms just threw stuff at the wall and what stuck.
Yeah.
SWA really had a sensitivity, and there's some really good SWA now still exists here in Laguna Beach. They're doing the
Yeah.
promenade. They're doing a bunch of things. They're really thoughtful people. Sean O'Malley, others.
Yeah.
I mean, those are people we hired to go into that firm.
That's awesome.
And we hired the best people in the country. I mean, you look at the top graduating class, we'd take the top 2 or 3.
Yeah. And put them all together.
And
I
we
mean,
moved them all to Southern California. And then we had a Great Depression here, and we fired everyone.
you know, it happens. But no, I think that's, I mean, that's so the photography was kind of your, like that was what brought you into that. But then obviously that expanded into all these different projects and you
Well, then I
being
would
involved.
document the change. I mean, I just saw a show of Lori Brown's at the Art Museum, and Lori was my neighbor in North Laguna, and she was going out and photographing literally the same environments, the same cameras, big panoramic cameras as I was, but she was doing it from a different context, different perspective,
Wow.
looking at it.
Yeah.
And I look at the pictures, they're the same pictures, but how they're interpreted all of a sudden became
Yeah.
a real great lesson.
Yeah. Well, and that again, I mean, just the storytelling and the angles and the lighting and the time of day and the picking the days and like all
Well,
that and the subject matter. I mean, all those things go into
and then
photography.
with a purpose, I mean, if I'm photographing the Los Angeles River and you're going down it, or you're photographing, we had projects all over the place, a lot in the desert, a lot of other things, and you look at the way waterworks go and how it works with the land. A lot of times I was doing what was called visual analysis,
Okay.
which was photographing the existing land.
Okay.
How did it work? And what a lot of those guys did was try to make things work with the land.
When they're designing it, as opposed to trying to
Well, now they take D9s and just rescrape the land.
Because that's, yeah. I really think that there's something to be said for, again, I mean, getting in and the land is shaped the way that it is because of what it's been through, right? And what happens, and when big rain events or whatever it is, right? And so, yeah, I mean, just to have that thoughtfulness and to kind of look at that is huge.
Because landscape architecture looks at a site where architects kind of build something. Are they building a monument to themselves or just want that to be, aha? Yeah. But a landscape architect wants to cite it. You have an arrival sequence. You have a thing. You have a presence.
How that presence.
Where does the light come? Where's the,
Yeah.
So you're doing solar studies. You're doing all these kind of things to understand the land if you're doing it right.
Yeah. And so that was kind of your role
my role was to then perceive that. And then I had these guys that were all educated at the GSD at Harvard or other places, and they'd come out and they needed to be doing landscape and plant stuff. Well, they'd want all these California plants, but they didn't know what they were.
Interesting.
They knew them in the books, but they didn't really know. So then we did these slideshows, as I said, and so I'd have to go out and photograph all these native plants, garden plant, whatever.
That's cool.
And make plants. So I'd have to go find them all.
To make the plant guide kind of things.
And then when I first came there, they had a slide library that had plants, projects, and examples, kind of sort of like that. But the plants were just like common names. But I said, a plant could be a ground cover, and some of those turn into trees, and some of them are. So they all have Latin names. So we switched all the
the scientific names.
To the scientific names, so they had continuity.
Wow.
And we had offices spread around the country. And so we wanted to be able to share because each had their own common name for things.
Yep. Well, it is interesting. I mean, working with wood as much as I do, right? There are a lot of different species that are called mahogany, for example.
Right.
Like every continent has its own
Honduras
species of.
mahogany,
Yeah,
Filipino mahogany.
I mean, all over the place, right? Ironwood, for example. Ironwood, like every different place you go that has ironwood, they're all different species. It's just whatever the hardest wood is that comes from that area, everybody always calls ironwood. And so there's ironwood coming from everywhere, right? And so, but they're different species and they have different properties and different, the wood looks different. And so to really get into that, yeah, I mean those things do matter a lot for that, especially for landscape stuff when you're, like you said, you don't want to put down some ground cover that eventually becomes a giant forest
Well,
necessarily. But
and
I think that, just the photography being that catalyst for learning and for kind of diving into all these things. I mean, you've probably learned because you've traveled all over the world doing your photography work
and projects.
and doing projects. And to me, I mean, it's just the learning curve on that path and on that journey and all the different things you're exposed to. I mean, you've been to, I mean, we're in Tibet for a while for some stuff. I saw some stuff that was from there. I mean, you've been all over the place.
And it's interesting with the American Society of Landscape Architects is a professional organization for landscape architecture. For a while, they had a European or international division, and they were doing rapid assessments and rapid trips, which meant in country for 1 or 2 weeks. And as a paid person in a firm, you would basically pro bono your work
Okay.
for 2 weeks, but you'd have no costs.
Yeah, I would gladly do trips like that.
So,
yeah, I've done trips like that for
and then if you wanted
underwater
to,
film
if they
work.
wanted you to do more work later, then they'd pay you or figure out, or you could extend it, but that's your deal.
Yeah.
So we did one, I don't know, 35 years ago in Ghana, West Africa, for a forest park, and it's a whole story in itself. But I've now since returned there years later and mentored people there all during that time, and now we're putting wells in West Africa.
Awesome.
I mean, it's just things come back. But in
Yeah.
that thing, we did rapid assessments in the Guyana Shield, like Guyana, Suriname,
Yeah.
those places.
Yeah.
I mean, and so you go in and you dropped in the middle of a project. You're not a tourist. I'm a terrible tourist, but I love being dropped into the middle of something that's already, quasi, trying to move and then
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
And, those things are fascinating. And then I spent a lot of time in Asia. I mean, I've probably been to China 50 times
Wow.
working on national park type projects.
Yeah.
Working, the Hortense Miller Garden just asked me to be a speaker in February.
Awesome.
And it's on panda stories.
Neat. Yeah,
So
that's
I've
cool.
worked with giant pandas.
Yeah.
And
I've
so,
seen some of the pics that you have. I mean, it's
So,
amazing.
we rebuilt a whole thing in the rainforests of cloud forests of Sichuan.
Wow.
I mean, so it's interesting. And so they said, well, you're a photographer. Why would you be doing it? I become like project managers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the benefit to me is that then I get to be in these places and make photographs.
Yeah. Well, and have impact on some really cool projects.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we set up a nonprofit here for Tibetans in exile. And so we do a lot of work with that. And through that, I've been able to photograph like amazing things, be it in Tibet or in India or wherever it might be. So,
That's
I told you moving into this, I used to have a few assistants and they'd show up and they'd go, what are we going to do today? And I had all these things going on. I had like 15 balls in the air at once of different things that were totally different from each other.
Yeah.
And that turns me, oh, we're going to work on this. And so, and in those days, the sort of the analog days, everything was in film. Everything had to be labeled.
Yeah. Well,
And-
because you have,
And
I mean,
so,
you've got to really inventory that stuff correctly, or else, I mean, stuff could get just completely lost.
and so you deliver things, be it to the Smithsonian or to some developer or architect. I mean, who knows where it might go.
Yeah.
But it all needed, if they're films, they needed a label on it. Otherwise, what are they?
So when you bring in assistants or people to help, I mean, it's just it's with that kind of stuff a lot of times.
Pretty much. And people
Yeah.
said, you know, that you're paying them a lot to do that. I said, yeah, but they're not very quick. But if it takes a whole day and I could do it in 2 hours, it's 2 hours I don't have to do.
It's worth it. No, I mean, at a certain stage, I mean, with all this stuff, at a certain stage in as doing artwork or doing whatever, things get to a point where, I mean, you just can't do it all yourself. And then you have to kind of high grade out the stuff that only you can do and lean into that stuff. And you have to bring in help because otherwise it's just not scalable.
And sometimes you bring in people to help you and all they want to do is what you do. And I
No,
said,
the
well, no,
fun-
I'm not
yeah,
hiring
yeah,
you to
yeah,
do what I do.
Yeah, no, you're bringing them in to do the other stuff.
You can pick it up if you want, but
Yeah.
I mean, you got here people chipping and shining, and
I can't do what I do at this stage and at the scale that we're doing it without help. And
No.
again, it helps. It kind of creates ultimately a better product because if I can have people kind of help with, grinding welds or doing some of the sanding stuff or doing whatever, it means that I can really lean into the stuff where I really personally bring value to the final piece, right? Which is, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that can sand or grind or whatever and do that kind of stuff or do some of the grunt work, we'll call it. But there's only me that can do what I do, and so to kind of lean in on the design or the sculpture or
it's
the
your
shape
design.
or whatever it is, and really put that much more energy into that, I think there's a lot more value for everybody.
So when those people come, do they add to your idea?
You know what? I think all this stuff, I think there's a lot of artists that kind of that are working in isolation. They're just a one man show, and I think the people that can do it, hats off to them. I think good for them, and I think that's awesome. I personally like having a team of people. Like I like having a tribe that, and I think that some of that bouncing ideas around, even if you're just bouncing ideas, your own ideas back and forth with somebody, it's just nice to be able to get out of your own way, out of your own head a little bit and have a little bit of that tribe. Plus, I mean, I don't know if you've experienced this, but with art, it seems like it's kind of it's a little bit of an emotional roller coaster ride because there's highs and there's highs and lows, and a piece comes in or a project comes in and it's like, oh great, and then you got to make it, and then maybe nothing comes in. It's not a stable workplace by any means, and so I can see how people that maybe have a tendency towards instability anyhow, and then they do art. I mean, it just seems like a perfect storm for a potential disaster of mental instability. And having some people around that are, that you're working with, you have a shared mission. It kind of helps to stabilize some of these things in a way that I think is beneficial for everybody.
I think in my sort of career, if you call it that, is by having all these different things, I create a strong foundation.
Yes.
So that no matter one thing might have, whatever it did, right? And now I give back a lot. I'm on arts boards.
Yes.
I've been curating some exhibitions to like bring people together and see, how are they going to muster? And it's we call it herding cats or whatever.
It is herding cats. I'm sure it's got to be frustrating.
And you get, you don't want to do, if you're working with an organization, you don't want to do their job, but you want to make them as good as they can be.
Yeah.
It is always my motto. Like, my job is to make you look as good as you can be.
Well,
and what do you do? How do you go about doing that,
Yeah. I think you and a handful of other people have really been like incredible mentors to new artists coming in. Like I remember, at least for me, for my when I first started at the Festival of the Arts, and again, I didn't know anything. Like I didn't even know enough to put price tags on my work at the festival, so it was kind of like this big mystery. Like my first year, it was kind of a mystery of like what everything's card charges for halfway through. But it's a navigating the art world and all the crazy different opportunities or stuff or whatever there is challenging. And yourself and Pat Sparkle was a great a great mentor and very generous with his time and energy and kind of, you know, helping me when I was kind of just figuring stuff out. But I think it's amazing what you've done and what you've contributed to all this stuff because I mean it's a lot of work and doing these like putting together shows or again getting artists to kind of, getting their work or whatever. I mean, just the few things that I've been involved with other artists and stuff. I mean, it is in a lot of ways a fairly disorganized group, and there's a lot of frustration in that, and there's a lot of um, different personalities and all that kind of stuff. And for you to step into that and to really help kind of these this help get art and promote art and get art out there and to kind of help champion that. I mean,
I
I
think
think it's
that then
incredible.
it adds meaning. It gives you meaning, and then it makes you more introspective of your own work. I
Yeah.
mean, right now I have all these projects, and I used to collect projects and box them up. Here they are, here they are. I mean, so I mean, we did a lot of slide film and then bigger films and all these films. I still have these boxes of films. And the nice thing about, as we said, the film and the analog world is that they just live in the box.
Yeah.
They're happy.
Yeah.
In the digital world, it's a disaster because who knows where they went half the time.
But on
And
my computer, it could be anywhere. Yeah. Yeah.
and so one of my projects is to try to find homes for some of these things,
Yeah.
that I made all these things, but they'd be better off someplace else. I mean, what do I do with the volumes of photographs of the 1997 fire or something? I
Yeah.
mean, who wants that stuff?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily, because so, you I say, okay, of my work, what do I want to be recognized for? You say that. Well, I mean, I'm a documentary photographer photographing, the Dalai Lama or Tibetan things or African, you know, all these paramount chiefs and all this incredible culture and architecture, or on the Amazon photographing, great stuff. All these different things around the world and here, but pretty soon there are too many piles.
Yeah.
And so trying to find, and so some of the documentary things in a lot, I do a lot of aerial photography. And the aerial photography came because I was working with SWA as landscape architecture. One of the way to see land is from above.
Different perspective. Yeah.
And this is way before drones or anything. We had helicopters. Well, actually, we had all sorts of contraptions. I mean, I can't tell you the number of man lifts I've gone up and hung over or gone up to get up high,
To get that elevated
to
view.
get up high. I mean,
Yeah.
I can tell you that, I mean, crazy stuff being, you know, lifts or things that go out and hang you out and just then you have to be really still while you do it.
Yeah.
I mean, getting up, getting a position. I mean, at one time I photographed Treasure Island at Las Vegas.
Oh,
A
interesting.
guy had made all the stonework, rock and waterscape, had made the rock work, and they wanted a photograph of what they did. So I said, how do I photograph that? Well, it wasn't from the air, but I found a hotel across the street that had a porca share and I could do it. And I was across the way. So I wasn't like with all the people, and then could photograph day to night from there.
Oh,
So you
cool.
look for locations. So as
Yeah.
photographers, me particularly, I always like to get up high and get an overview. Look, I mean,
Well, I love the work you do. Like that's the whole that series of images that you've done. That's like up above looking down, and it's like it looks like almost some of these look like alien landscapes and all these different things with some crazy colors and different all sorts of stuff. And it's like it's just that perspective is we're so not used to seeing things from that perspective that when you do, it's a stunning image.
well, thanks. I mean, it's interesting. It's really come full circle because I said I worked with Aaron Siskin in graduate school to work with his. I mean, he wasn't a teacher. I just went to his studios and worked. Um, he photographed these microcosms from here, looking down, making this thing. I'm at now 1,000 feet or 2,000 feet or 600 feet, doesn't really matter, photographing abstract landscapes from above. So here I am, sort of like all of a sudden saying, "Oh, I know where all this inspiration came from. Is the
Yeah.
abstract." So I'm much more intrigued with the Debercorns of the world, or Paul Klee or whoever it might be, than other photographers in the design work that I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And so photographing the land or things from the air, from helicopters I mean, for some project was the impetus that got me in the air.
Yeah.
And I always tell this story. It's like buying a pizza. When was the last time you finished it? There's always extra slices.
Oh, okay. So, yep. So you're doing a
So,
job, and there's always some.
so you
Yeah.
buy this thing, you buy lots of time. Helicopters are very expensive.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I had a project in Chicago to photograph a building from the air and do panoramas of the Chicago skyline, and do that was the reason for, and then do some I'm also an architectural photographer, so buildings and
Some
things,
architectural
whatever.
stuff. Yeah.
So I was there for a while, and but I scheduled some flights.
Yeah.
So I said, well, so you photograph the things that you're commissioned to do so you're documenting, and people are saying, is that art or not? Well, you're putting everything you have into it.
Yeah.
It's like art. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like the Laurie Brown story. It's like the way it's perceived is, you could just as easily take that and put it over here and say that's what it is,
Yeah.
because
No, there's a lot of artistry that goes into that
it's
perspective.
seen the same way if you take it into a different context. But whatever. But the thing of it is, you've bought this chunk of time and you've finished everything you needed to for your client or your mentor or whoever it is that's paying for this thing, and the rest of the time is yours.
Oh, fun. Okay.
So, and one of my pilots said, are we done? I said, yeah, I guess so. Can we go make art now? So you have this now platform that's yours to use.
Yeah.
And so in Chicago, I said, I said, well, if I'm going to go all the way to Chicago, what can I photograph while I'm there? So I said, well, stockyards. They're known for stockyards. Well, guess what? There are no more stockyards in Chicago.
Interesting.
They're all gone. There are a few plaques and a few bollards and things.
Yeah.
But they are abandoned train yards.
Oh, interesting.
That
I
are
remember
like-
seeing the images of that.
They're
Yeah.
melting into the ground. Amazing.
Yeah. It's a cool perspective. I mean, it
Jeff
really tells a story.
Meerberg. Do you know Jeff? Jeff and Carla
Okay.
live here in town.
Yeah.
And Jeff had this recycling thing he was doing out near Edwards Air Force Base in the Apple Valley Plateau. And he had people try to photograph it, but they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
It just didn't satisfy him.
Yeah.
And he said, could we do some aerials? I said, sure. He said, well, what's that going to cost me? I said, well, I'll do it for free, but I want 2 extra hours on site.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of time in a helicopter.
Yeah.
Because you got to fly there and do the work, and then 2 hours. And then I said, I want you to be my spotters. We're going to go look for things.
Oh, fun.
And so then we made a whole series on the Apple Valley, the plateau up there, which is sort of white, and then as marks, in what I call it, like this book I brought you is Marks on the Land.
Oh, beautiful.
It's this was a catalog from the Great Park. And so it's got some of these images, and these images, the ones I make, have no horizons, have no sense of scale.
It's awesome because it could be anything. Like, look at that. Like that could be could be something in the, like, a micro world or macro. Like you don't,
And
you just
I've
don't even
had
know.
people come and look at it, that are astrophysicists or something, and they're saying,
Yeah.
oh, this is what I look at in my telescope all the time, or I see,
Oh yeah, or like this right here with the I think that's so fun. Well, it just gives a different perspective and tells a different story than what people are used to seeing at eye level. And I think that's really a fun series.
And now, the conversation is not compromised. It's gotten more complicated with drones.
Yeah, that's a different. It changes the dynamics of everything because
Well-
drones are cheap compared to getting a helicopter.
Drones are cheap, but they're kind of premeditated,
Yeah.
because in the architecture world, we had guys that have a sheet of paper as big as this table and start at one corner, start drawing, and finish at the other corner.
Yeah.
Saw the whole thing in their mind's eye
Yeah.
and just drew
Yeah.
the whole thing. Now you get a guy with this on a CAD screen, and he's zeroed into here to work on that and this,
But not
without never the big picture.
yeah.
So a lot of people are losing sight of the big thing. So
Yeah, it's
so
a
with
different perspective because if you're in a helicopter, you're looking around and you see the whole everything, and then you can go, "Oh, I wanna go get this or
well,
that."
so
But a drone, it's kind of
if
like
I'm
it's seeing
flying
whatever the
from
camera shows you.
here to Palm Springs, it isn't that I get to Palm Springs and take my drone out and send it up. I'm flying
Yeah,
from here to there, and I'm going, "Oh, what's that over there?
yeah,
Oh, I don't see anything. Well, let's just go check that out."
yeah.
Or I did a whole series on the LA River because I was flying to LA or
Yep.
all the time down through LA. But now you could theoretically, with a drone, go to some of the places I photographed
Yeah,
and make, similar things, but it's more premeditated. It's not spontaneous. With a helicopter, I'm using longer lenses, so I'm compressing space,
yeah,
which drones tend to be wide space. I mean,
yeah,
but even if you could do that, and then I'm at high altitude and kind of spiral down to find out it's like three-dimensional chess.
yeah.
What altitude, what aspect? Because if you right there, you get spectral highlights.
Oh,
Boom, they're
interesting.
gone.
Okay.
So where do you see that? And people say, do you make lots and lots? No, I don't make a lot of photographs when I'm doing that. I'm just waiting for the right
The right time.
time. I mean, one time I was photographing in Camarillo, and I had a project to photograph, and it was right off the end of the runway. I knew it would take like minutes. I mean, it was like ridiculously, but I need to make aerials. So I called up this guy and I said, I'm going to do this thing. And he said, "Oh, I know where that place is." I said, "But then I want to fly for another couple hours and do some of my artwork." He says, "Fine." He said, and I told him basically what I was doing. He said, "Oh, I know exactly what you're." I said, "Great. You're going to be, I hear you're a good pilot, and
Yeah.
this will be good." And so we did the project. We flew for a couple hours and came back. And he said, "I've been flying here for 25 years and I've never seen what you just showed me,
Interesting.
because what I was photographing are not, I mean, photography is normally of something.
Yeah.
These aren't of anything."
It's like well, it's kind of I think it almost feels like it's you talk about the journey, like get it's not the destination, it's the journey, and these are things that you're seeing on the journey that
Yeah.
are of value and of telling a very unique story.
Right. So whether it's agriculture, a tractor going back and forth,
Mhm.
if you go back, the whole thing's changed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
temporal too.
Yeah.
And so I'm now working on trying to pull those images all together,
And put together
some sort of
for sure.
monograph or some
Yeah.
sort of thing. I mean, we're getting some in museums. There's an exhibition right now at the Laguna Art Museum with a couple nice pieces. Um, so, what do you do with, that's one thing to do with them, right?
That's a tricky thing. Yeah, wrapping kind of where does all that energy go and where do you put it and what is it, how do you get that story out? Because again, I mean, it's kind of and this is something like I mean, again, you're putting together a lot of shows and doing a lot of things to help get art out into the world for people to see. And it's kind of like there's a lot of stuff that's out there that again, if people never see it, if they never are exposed to it, then it's a story that they've never heard,
Right.
And so I think getting those out there and doing that, whether it's through your shows or through the Festival of the Arts or through whatever it is, I mean, I just think getting people exposed to it. I mean, and I think also I like with art, I mean, like what we're doing now is we're diving into this is long format conversation and diving into a little bit of your backstory, but what your vision of how this came to be and like and what went into this and all that. I think that's a really important aspect of the final story.
In trying to push stuff.
Yeah.
I was making these photographs. They're getting larger and larger,
Yeah.
40 by 60 and things. And you have collectors that say, "I already have a couple. How many walls do you think I have?"
it's hard. Well, finding the right space for everything is tricky
And
too.
so I said, "Well, what about your floor?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So I actually, long story, but I work with a incredible Tibetan carpet guy in Kathmandu, Nepal,
Mm-hmm.
and the wool is obtained from the upper plateaus of the Tibetan plateau, which I photographed the sheep up there in the sheep, and then it's carted by a monastery, and the dyes are all natural dyes that are harvested, and the silk comes from an organic silk farm in southern India and right near some of the Tibetan places that I've been working with. So I go see that and then take a photograph and then make it into something that could be, and these aren't woven, they're knotted, hand knotted,
So take those patterns and
and
that
make that
vision.
into a carpet.
Very
So
cool.
you're taking a photograph that is in millions of colors of an abstract and then putting it back into something that has 15 colors
Yeah.
and making that same image
Wow.
as a carpet.
That's cool.
And so it's it's taking that idea and then working to figure out, okay, if I'm going to use this textile material, what's going to be up, what's going to be silk, what's going to be wool, what's going to be shadows, what's going to be dark, and how to make that and what color dyes to represent that, and then work with that. And then I don't knot I don't pour the bronze into the kiln, but
Sure. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
making the
That's your vision and your imagery. Yeah.
imagery, and it's like the plaster mold I've made, and now, okay, now produce it.
Yeah.
And so these have been fascinating to see that interpretation. And it's kind of like people say, are you still making a lot of aerials? Well, I don't need to necessarily make a lot of aerials. Um, I mean, a recent trip to look at these carpets, my friend there asked my wife, what does he want to do while he's here? She said, well, if you can get him in a helicopter, that would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we, next thing I know, next morning, I'm on a helicopter to Mount Everest.
Wow. Cool.
And so you're photographing these incredible mountains, but I'm doing that, but then I'm looking down at the glacial flows and the patterns on the glaciers. And
I think that would be, I mean,
those are amazing.
it's amazing. Yeah. I mean, to be able to bring all that together and kind of, again, I mean, to tell your unique story from your perspective, I think is really it's a cool opportunity for people to see,
Mm.
I think it's really neat. Well, I'll tell you, Tom, I mean, what you've done, for the art world here in Laguna Beach and for me specifically and just all the energy and knowledge and everything that you're bringing to the art world and to all of us,
Mm.
aspiring up and coming artists and different people like that. I mean, I think it's huge and your experience and what you've done, traveling the world, doing photography work and doing all these different things and kind of bringing that together. I mean, it's been really neat to see and I'm so stoked to be able to kind of dive into a little bit of the backstory, kind of what went into some of that. And I really appreciate you coming out here
Well,
today.
thanks.
Yeah.
We've just
We're
touched the surface.
I
Huh?
know, I know. Well, we'll have to do it again and we'll dive deeper into some other aspects.
Sure.
Where can people find your work?
Well, they can find it in exhibitions. I mean, it's at the Laguna Art Museum right now.
Okay.
Even I photograph a lot of Jean-Claude and Christo's work. And so there's a wonderful piece right now at the Suzy Q Gallery right now. But on www.lampstudio.com, I have a nice selection of work. It's, my social media is getting better, and we'll launch some of these on that again,
Yeah.
so we'll get that. But it's interesting is I'm working really hard to pull this information together. It's good. I'm the executive director of Orange County Center for Contemporary Arts, and we're
Okay.
going to do a show coming up next month there of work. You can get
Awesome.
some good images there. Art Start, I think it's called. There's a show right now at the Santa Ana College that has some good work. So I mean, I try to just get it out there.
Yeah. Well, you've got a lot going on. I think for people to kind of hear about your work, to kind of stay in tune with some of that stuff through social media or through just keeping in touch with what you're doing.
Mhm.
I think it's great. And I think for people to go actually see your work up close and to really get to experience it, I mean, that's a great opportunity. So everybody go check out Tom's work. Thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it. And thanks everybody for listening. Make sure to share this conversation with people on through your different social media channels, and we'll talk to you soon.
Good to see you.